Hello, everyone. I wanted to stop by real quick before this podcast starts and say you should like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on all my social medias at John D. Klauser. It's literally the same name as the name that you subscribe to on this YouTube channel. So enjoy this clip, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
Now don't pop it up. Keep letting it out like that. Slow. Like, you'll feel it. It'll start to flow.
Too fast.
No.
Slow it down. God damn it. I'm sorry.
You okay?
I'm okay. Don't
You alright, Mom?
Oh, crap.
I got a video.
Are you guys okay?
I'm okay. I am okay.
Oh, crap.
I'm okay. I'm fine.
Alright.
Shirley, don't be.
Everybody's okay. We're okay.
Everything's good.
Okay.
No,
No broken ass?
Shirley, stop. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is your ass broken?
Shirley, I am fine.
What is up, guys? How are you doing? So this whole putting the clapping thing in has been one of the best and one of the worst things I've ever done in my entire life. And then now connecting my laptop to this computer. But hey, we're here, guys. We're alive. We're doing it. We're on episode 33 of my podcast called The John Show. I'm your host, John D. Klauser. I'm coming in at you guys nice and smooth here tonight on a Friday evening at 11:15. I just got done watching the Lakers versus the Heat game. Well, that was interesting. Somehow the Heat pulled out another victory, and now they are just now one game from tying it up. Was it 3-2 now? It was a good season this year. I'm a Clippers fan, and then until the Clippers just decided to shit the bed, I don't have many things in my life that I really want, and I really look forward to doing. Everyone was talking about how, this is going to be our season. We had Leonard. We had what's the other guy's name? Paul George. I always want to call him George Paul for some reason. I don't know why I want to do that, but every time I want to. But we lost. And now I'm just like, okay, hey, let's watch LeBron James try to win another championship. Because, I don't understand why people talk so much shit on this guy. He came out of high school, 1. And then 2, everywhere he goes, he ends up taking him to a championship. So isn't that pretty good? I would say, anywhere you go, good things prosper from that. Anywhere else, if you were in any other company, if you went from Google and made $10 billion, then you went to Apple and then you made them $22 billion, and then you went to Tesla and you made them $8 trillion, you would be considered somebody who's oh, okay, he whatever he does, he does it right, and he knows what he's doing when it comes to building companies. Clearly, LeBron James knows what he's doing when it comes to building basketball programs and teams and figuring out coaches. And, sometimes he does jump the gun. He wanted to get rid of Spoelstra. I believe that was one of the big things that he wanted to do because he didn't think Spoelstra could do it. And then he got rid of Blatt from Cleveland, which I feel really bad about. Because that guy did not get he didn't get the enough time to try to develop a team, and then Lou ends up taking over, and they end up winning the championship that year. It was what a son of a bitch. I'd be so angry if I got up there finally. I was trying to lead a team in the NBA, and I'm okay, I'm finally the head coach. I'm here, I'm doing it, and then I'm I have a good enough team this year that we can win. We can definitely win the championship. I have LeBron James, one of the best players. He was a prodigy from high school. He came out of high school. He was 18 years old, and he started playing in the NBA, and his first game was 25.6 rebounds. And I think he had 5 assists. I think. This is off the top of my head. I know he had... but anyway, it was somewhere close around that, And he... Then, now... he's everywhere that he goes. This is on his third team. He's taken Lakers. Granted, like some people think that it was kind of a. I don't think it was. Like I'm like, dude, what else does he have to prove? Like the only other thing that he could do was somehow go back in time, or they could somehow have a version of Michael Jordan when he was the same age as LeBron James and have him play 1-on-1. That's the only thing that could happen next. That's it. Besides that, like you're comparing apples and oranges. Yes, Michael Jordan went to 6 championships. Yes, Michael Jordan had 6 NBA championship MVPs. Yes, understandable. I got this. And he had to go through a lot of hard teams, the Pistons. Then he had to go through Utah. And like there's teams that he had to play that were very difficult. I get that. LeBron James, there was that time when he was at the Cavaliers for the first time, and he was leading them, single-handedly leading them to championships with no one on his team, had no one. And you just put it all on his back, and then you got mad at him because he was like, well, I want to go to another team. I want to, he did the Summer Olympics, and then after the Summer Olympics, he's like, he kind of found some guys he wanted to play with, and then they went down to Miami, and granted, like some people would say that they didn't get as many championships as they should, but hell, dude, they won, and they appeared at enough championships, and then he won there, and then he wants to go to LA, and then he's on the cusp of winning a championship with a third team. It's like, granted, this would be his 4th out of 10. I believe that's what it is. And like, granted, it's still only 40%, but he's gone to 10. That's not everyone who's talking about it and says that, like, LeBron James versus like Michael Jordan's, well, he's like 6 championships and he's been there 6 times versus someone who's gone 10 times and only won it 4 times, or almost 4 times. It's like, guys, no, like they're both pretty good. Like it's maybe A1, AB. Like they're both. It's not I don't know. I would say clothing wise, Michael Jordan for sure. I like his stuff a lot more than I like LeBron's. But they're both Nike, so they're both pretty much. It is what it is. You wouldn't believe from how much I just sprouted all that how much that basketball. I grew up watching a lot more basketball than we watched tennis a lot. My parents would always have me watch tennis. Never watch golf. My parents were never big into golf. Super into tennis though, because living in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, they played tennis all the time there. And so it was kind of just a normal thing for us. Did you hear me burp into the microphone? Isn't that great? But hey guys, how are you doing? Are you doing great? I just blabbled and talked for, NBA talk for a little bit. I hope you guys are doing great. This is day 1700 of COVID. We're doing, and we're here. We're alive. Some people wearing masks, some people not wearing masks. Some people are, just living their life and trying to do the best you can. If you wear the mask to a required place, that's what they do. Take your vitamins. That's why I tell everyone, take your vitamins every day. I take vitamin C, a vitamin D3, 1-a-day vitamin, a fish oil, and I take a fiber tablet, and it helps with your blood sugar, so your blood sugar doesn't spike or like get too low or anything like that. It keeps it pretty mellow. That's why I use it for. And plus it helps a lot. It makes you what's the word? Makes you shit like a Swiss train. My grandpa used to say that all the time. I might be old, but I shit like a Swiss train. It's like, all right, that's really the only thing I have about my grandpa. That's like really the only story. Because then he died shortly after I got adopted and became part of this family of others. So it's really funny. I have like a white family, so I got adopted, and then I have like my Latino family, and I have a Egyptian family too. Which mostly I don't really know much about them. I know my dad, and I know he may or may not live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and he may or may not still live with his stripper girlfriend. And when you might be like, John, how do you know like his girlfriend is a stripper? It's because because her daughter, who is also a stripper, when I met my dad for the first time, asked if I wanted a hand job. So that's how I learned. And then you might be like, well, John, there's a lot of difference between a hand job and like learning someone's a stripper. And then she's like, well, like I need to know the answer now because I'm about to go to work. I'm like, oh, where do you work? She's like, at a strip club. So that's how I learned that. And that was a great experience for the first time when I met my father, my bio father. You know, and also another funny thing too. So while we're on this conversation, so when I met my biological mother for the first time, this is a fucking hilarious story. So I first met my brother, my oldest brother Carlos, and then he was like, hey, you want to come and meet your mom? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, this would be awesome. This would be, I've always wanted this because, when you're adopted, I got adopted. And I came to the States, and I was like, 7.5, almost 8 years old when I became an American citizen and started the whole process of just becoming, a normal Americano, trying to be. So what, sorry, I was getting messages. But anyway, so my brother what's funny, my brother was just messaging me. Sorry. And so... He's like, he probably has like this sense of like, are you talking about me, man? Like, what's up, man? Like, why are you talking about me? And when we met, then he was like, hey, you want to meet your mom? I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. So it was so funny when I was growing up. One of the funniest things was like, I always wanted to like know like who my mom was. Like what anyone does, like anyone that's adopted, who your mom is, like what they look like, who's this person, like what's their name. For me, like I really wanted to know like a name. For some reason, like names is a huge thing because I have like my Spanish name and then I have my American name. And so my Spanish name, Wilmar Juan Carlos Tenoco, and then my American name, John David Clauser. It's way two different things, just two split atom thing. It's hilarious. Like it's like, oh, like you have your Latin name and then you have an English name. Your English name is a very white generic name. I'm like, yes, it is. It's just it's very Jew. But so when I met her for the first time, he's like, hey, I'm gonna go get her. Like, you can just sit right here. I'm like, okay, awesome. I'm like, okay, John, here it is. I was 28 years old. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm gonna finally meet my mom. I'm gonna, and the first question I'm gonna ask her, I'm like, what's your name? Like, I just want to know what your name is. And so she comes in, she sits down. I'm like, oh my God, mom. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see like we have kind of the same hair. She's a lot darker than me. Just brown eyes. Just a little bit heavy set and just caramel skin, like Latino lady. And I'm like, awesome. I'm like, hey, what's up? My name's John. I'm like, I'm your son. What's up? How are you? And she's like, hi, hola. And remember, like this is all in Spanish because like she only speaks Spanish. And I'm like, so what, like, what's your name? And she's like, what? I'm like, what's your name? I've always wanted to know like what your name was. And she's like, Big Cat. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, Big Cat. And I don't know if you've ever had that feeling in deep down inside your heart when you're like, what? You spent your whole life wondering what your mom's name is. And then she's just like, Big Cat. I was like, Big Cat? I'm like, how big? No, I'm like, no, what's your real name? She's like, it's just better that you just call me Big Cat. It's like, what the fuck? Like, who does that? Who just is like, you know what? John, like, you can just stick to just knowing me as Big Cat. Like, and two, Big Cat. What a horrendous nickname for somebody. It's like, Big Cat? Like, where'd you get that? Did you get that because, like, did you kill, like a ferocious animal? Or did you kill, or do you just have, like, a giant pussy? It's like, what is it? Because, God forbid, if I tell anybody this, any of my friends, because they're all really bro-ish, they'll all be like, bro, you probably, your mom probably got that name because she has a big pussy. And it's like, oh, that's great. I'm so glad that I left myself wide open for that joke. I'm so glad. It's awesome. It's awesome. But something that's super, super, super funny. So I work in the food industry. That's one of the things you may or may not know because the whole pandemic, it's like that. I was working in the film industry. I had to move over to the food because I've been doing that before I was doing this other film job that I had. And so what's interesting is, like, when you work in the food industry, like, you always get free meals. There's always food. There's always ways you can, like, and people are always going to want you to try things because, like, hey, I'm trying this new recipe. I'm trying these new spices. Like, hey, like, please, like let me know what you think I should add or take out or, whatever. So a lot of people are like, hey, like, there's some pork. You can eat some pork. I'm like, no, I don't want to eat any pork. Or, like, there might be some bacon. There might be some sausage. There might be, like, things like that. Like, pork products, I just don't eat pig. And it's like, and for a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, like, why? Like, why don't you want to eat it? I'm like, I just don't like it. But they're like, but you live in Kansas City. You live in the Midwest. How can you not like barbecue? Like, how can you not like it? I'm like, one, barbecue is gross because if you have to slather any type of meat in a bunch of sauce and a bunch of sugar, you might want to take a step back and look at it and be like, you know what? Maybe this is not the best thing to be eating. Maybe this is not a great piece of meat. If I have to, like, dunk this thing in a fucking petri dish, John, in, like, maybe a bowl, like a silver bowl would have been a better description. But, like, it's just gross. It's awful. It's not good to me. I just don't like it. And then they're like, but, like, John, you just never tried the good thing. I'm like, what? And I don't like bringing it up because it's really no one's business. But I'm like, too, like, I'm Jewish. Like, I don't eat pork. And they're always like, oh. They're always like, yeah. They're like, oh. And, like, they look at me and, like, you know what? I see it, because your nose. Like, it's like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, what could it be? Like, he's something. It's your nose. Like, that's why that's what it is. Because I'm like, okay, I get it. I have a big nose. But the thing is, like, I'm only Jewish by proxy. Like, I'm not, like, it's not that, like, there's two different kinds of Jews. There's you can be the religion, and then you can be the actual, people, like, and it's like, okay, that's funny, like, and, like, it shows how kind of racist people are. It's hilarious. It's almost the same thing when people find out that I'm Egyptian, and I might have already told this before, but when people find out that I'm Egyptian, they're like, oh my God, there's two questions that they ask me, and the first one is, it's like, so, like, your great grandparents were, like, pharaohs? And I always look at them because it blows my mind. It's like, I don't think you know how history works, because they were way further back. And, like, no. And then the second question they always ask me is like, hey, John, so, like, since you're half Egyptian, does that mean you can, like, say the N-word? It's like, no, that does not mean I can say it, because when has it ever been okay for someone that looks like me to ever say something like that? It's not okay. But yeah, these are things that are going on in my life. And that's like, it's like every person, everybody, they're always like, oh, your nose, that's what it is. It's like, that's Jew. It's Jew. It's like, wow, that's incredibly racist. But it's funny though, because it gives me something to talk about on a podcast that I do. What's going on? I was funny because, like, Yom Kippur was a couple weeks ago, and if you don't know what that is, it's just a Jewish holiday. Like, after the New Year, it's the Monday after the New Year, and you end up being like a week later. But so it's the day you just, like, you just don't eat. And then you just do prayer. And what I did was I just did a couple prayers, and then I watched a sermon, and I watched one over Job, and they were talking about how Job got talked to by God, because, Job was the guy who lost his wife, lost a kid. He lost, like, all of his land, all of his riches, because God made a bet with the devil, which is a horrific story of how God will just fuck with you just to prove a point to something else. It's like, dude, you're God. Like, why are you doing that? And I know I shouldn't say that. But I'm just like, I'm like, good God, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm over here praying about you. I'm not eating pork. And then, like, you're going to come and spite me? Like, you're going to slice me down like a peg or two? It's like, dude, I'm already here. And, but he was, then he lost his whole family, and then God came to him and talked to him as a talking tornado. It was great. They said whirlwind, tornado. Tornado might be a little dramatic, but still, I think it's hilarious because no matter, even a whirlwind, like a dust storm, like it's still pretty funny. It's just like, really, like, and then when I hear more of these stories, more and more of these stories about the Jewish like culture and the religion, I'm always like, and Hitler was scared of these people. These were the people that they're trying to get rid of. He was trying to get rid of these people. Like, why? Like, that's absolutely silly. Out of like, they're just over here believing this, and they're doing Hanukkah, and Moses talked to burning bushes. And he took him 40 years throughout the desert. That's what's so crazy, is that it took him 40 years, and then he was the last Israelite that left Egypt and was able to see like just like the onset of Israel, and then he died. It's like, damn, dude, you did all that time and you did all that effort, and like God still was like, no, not yet. You can't see it. And then I'm assuming he took him to heaven. And then, it's just it's an awesome religion, but there's crazy stories. And then another crazy story that I really enjoy, like there's a time that Moses jumped 100 feet in the air with an axe and killed a giant. I believe, I'm 100%. I'm almost 100%. Let's just say 99%, and allegedly. But there is one of the prophets that did that jumped 100 feet in the air with a sword and killed a giant. The story of Jonah and the whale. Jonah and the whale. He was fleeing God because God was asking him to do certain things, and has to do with like when God tries to give you signs, you should listen to him and read them and take him in the fact that like it's God, so what he wants you to do is bigger than you. It's more important because God always comes first. But they had to throw him overboard because in the ocean, and then he gets eaten by a whale, and then he ends up being down there for 3 days, and he comes back up, and then he starts believing in what God wants him to do and all that stuff. But like the Jews believe that, from my readings, from what I've read. I'm going by from what I've read. God forbid anybody like 10 years from now, someone like pulls this up and reads this and be like, John, you didn't tell this story accurately, and you offended me. But hopefully by that point, people are going to be over this whole being very sensitive. Now, I'm not saying being sensitive is wrong. Cry and laugh more. Do what you need to do to get through life. Do it, please. But from what I've read, Jonah was down in the whale for 3 days, and he was kind of like, this is pretty awesome. Like, I'm getting fed, I'm hanging out, I don't have to do anything. I have no more responsibilities as a human anymore because I'm living down in this whale stomach. And so after that, God was like, well, what can I do? So he brought a bigger fish that ate that fish, and then during that time when he was inside the bigger fish's belly, it guided him and showed him like hell, and it showed him like all the bad stuff that was going to happen if he doesn't like follow God. And then after that, he gets up out of the whale's stomach, and then he starts following God. That's it. That's the story. It's just a little bit more advanced, just slightly different, but it's beautiful. If you ever gone to Israel, if anyone, this is my thing. If you go to Israel at any time and you go visit there, one, it's gorgeous. Eat hummus, eat pita. Why not? Drink camel milk, for God's sake. It's not that bad. I've done it all the time. I've done it every time I go there. Every time I've been there, boom, drink. And Middle East is awesome. I think Middle East is the best out of all the places. It's hot. And that's what's so awesome. And the garbs are made for it to be hot. And so if you just wear it and you just like live like that, you're good. You don't have to, and it's a lot less stress on what to wear. I enjoy it a lot. But if you ever go to Israel, go to the Dome of the Rock, and once you go there, you're going to see that it's like a huge Mecca place. Like not to use Mecca as a pun here, but it's a big place for the Jews, for Christians, and then for Muslims. And once you see that, you're like, oh, we're kind of all the same. Like, we're going to the same place, but we're just going to different entrances. And once you see that, you kind of like lose all. If you had any hatred, you lose it, because you see that, like, oh, they pretty much believe the same thing that I believe in, that they believe in, and then like we're all here. Like, clearly, like, God wants us all here, even if like there is the same God and he has different people believe anything, and he's kind of just all free flowing. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But and at the end of the day, like, he could have easily, if he is as big, as powerful as we believe in, and as you want to believe in, then he could easily like have separated us and have us at all different places around the world, and like we wouldn't have one center point of humanity. And it's just like, that was like the biggest moment. Like, I remember the first time I went there, I was 10. I was like 10. And I was like, dude, there's everyone here. Like, I'm like, there's white people, there's Jews, there's Muslims, there's like black people, there's black people. Like, it's just like, everyone's here. Like, I'm Latino, like everyone's here. And it's like, this is it. I'm like, and I was like, and that's in my mind. I was like, there is a God and all this stuff. Like, he could have easily changed it and made it a lot harder for all of us to have interacted and intertwined with each other and be different religions. But he didn't. He made it pretty easy, because he made one spot be a monument for Christians, Jews, and Muslims, or anybody. Like, the three main religions in the world. So it's just hard. It's hard to see, like, and I didn't mean to, like, wow, John, wow. See, this is the thing, like, when you talk for 30 minutes in a room by yourself, you have to sometimes just go off and just talk. And you have to do things. And, like, if you've gotten this far, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. You should definitely give this video a thumbs up if you haven't done yet already, because I tell you at the beginning of the video to do that. But I guess I have about like a minute 40 left. 2 minutes and 40 minutes left. So I'm going to in this, like, the movie of the week. I'm pretty sure you guys have watched all the other movies I've told you to watch, but this one you should watch is called Take This Waltz. It is starring Michelle Williams and Seth Rogen. Yes, Seth Rogen from, what did he do? Pineapple Express. That's the big one that he did. He did Knocked Up. This is actually a really serious movie, and he plays as a cook. And I might have talked about this before, but plays as a cook, and he's dating this girl, or he's married to this woman, and it's kind of her story and her like struggle with trying to like want new love, having old love. It's directed by this lady called Sarah Pauly. It was her first feature film. It was really good. Very indie film. It only made like 1.2 million. For being a filmmaker, I'm really studying through this part of the thing. I'm just like, oh, dude, I made it through another podcast. Like, I did this and I got this done. But yeah, it was really good movie. I enjoy it. It was and I keep saying it was, the movie Take This Waltz was one of the most impactful movies I watched in 2012. That's when it came out. And if you want to see Seth Rogen do an actual serious role and see how his acting skills actually are as an actor, then I would check it out. Take This Waltz came out in 2012. Only grossed 1.2 million. Not really that much money. You can tell the movie they didn't have that much money to make it, but it was actually fun. It was great. But check out my other podcast, the Aaron and John Show, after this now, and then you can check out Cool Baby Podcast. I produce that. I just am kind of on the back end, doing all the levels, all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys thank you for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. Don't have to do anything else. You don't have to leave a comment. Just give it a thumbs up. It helps a lot. It makes me feel good. All right, guys. I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye. I love you. Bye. Bye.